In the Gospel according to Shelley Lubben, she was cast out of her home in anger by her neglectful parents, and from that point on, it was just Shelley, her trusty Bible, and her baby daughter. Until she met Gary, there was no one there to help. She was a child raising a child.
By then I was a major alcoholic and drug user and a horrible mother to my daughter. I would give my 3-year-old daughter a beeper and tell her to wait at the park until I was done doing tricks, and then I would beep her to come home. And you know, my family saw me live this way. They saw their granddaughter suffer, and yet they still ignored the problem.
Except it turns out only Shelley remembers it that way.
In October 2011, the world first heard her family's side of the story in a YouTube video produced by Shelley's brother. The video addresses many of the claims which form the very foundation of the Shelley Lubben myth.
All right, let's start with Shelley leaving home. According to her parents, in July 1986, the family went on a trip to Yosemite without her. She never wanted to go on family trips. This time, Shelley decided to throw a party while they were gone. The Moores had to cut their trip short, so they pull up at their house, and the first thing they see is all the flowers from the front lawn have been ripped out. Then they see that there was a fire in the garage. Someone had set fire to a refrigerator in the garage that's attached to the house.
Shelley had a story ready for her parents. She said that a boy who was known to be in a bad crowd, whom she didn't invite, got angry, torched the refrigerator, and then stuffed clothing down the toilet to make trouble.
The plumbing was ruined. A neighbor had to come by to put out the fire. The house could have burned down. As her mother recalls, now that she was 18, they'd given her yet another chance to be responsible.
According to Chris Moore, their dad had been telling her for a year that if she didn't clean up her act, she was going to have to find another place to live when she turned 18. The party incident was the straw that broke the camel's back.
So, after a heartbreaking couple of days, her father told her she had to go. Shelley answered, "I know, Dad." The family is adamant that her father never shouted, "You're dead" to me at the front door. If she knew it was coming, as she has admitted, why would there have been any need for melodrama? They asked if she had somewhere to stay until she got on her feet, and she said yes, a friend's place.
Today, Shelley describes an angry scene in which she's thrown out of the house. Her dad is screaming, and she's furious too.
I just remember that I was full of rage from my father and mother kicking me out on the street, and that rage fueled my career in the sex work.
But back in 2005, she painted a much calmer picture.
I just grabbed my clothes and a Bible. Yes, I still love God. And I had no money, no food, nothing. I just went down to the corner and called somebody I had just met a few weeks back who happened to live in the San Fernando Valley in California, which is the porn capital of the world. I had no idea the destiny that Satan had waiting for me.
In her original story, she walked down the street and called someone from a payphone. But there was no payphone on the corner. She's in a residential area. It's a long way to the nearest payphone. This was 1986. She didn't have a cell phone. So if someone picked her up, that means she wasn't tossed out the door. She had the time to be able to call someone from the house and ask to get picked up. According to her family, that's exactly what happened. Shelley gathered up her clothes and threw them in a big black bag. She called a friend, and later a car pulled up. Shelley got in it, and they drove away. And no one else remembers her taking her Bible with her.
Shelley now says, at age 18, it was her father's anger and 4 heartless words that caused demonic spirits to enter her and set her on the path to prostitution and porn. However, Shelley also admits she had secretly begun stripping at age 17, using a fake ID while she was still living at home.
Within a matter of months after leaving home, Shelley was back in touch with her parents. And when she got pregnant by a client, she told them it was by someone she met at a club. She hadn't told them she was a prostitute, only that she was a stripper. While she was pregnant, her parents, who Shelley now calls judgmental, unloving, and racist, moved Shelley back into their house, and her father built a room for Shelley and her half-Asian baby. And after she gave birth, she and baby Tiffany continued living with the family.
It's the summer of 1988, 2 years after Shelley had left home. She no longer has to pull tricks in a dirty downtown LA hotel room. She now has a clean, safe place to live. Her parents are going to help her raise her child.
They wanted her to stay with them, but when they insisted that if she were going to live under their roof, she had to get a job outside the sex business, she picked up her stuff, grabbed her baby, and chose to go back to that kind of existence. She refused to get a straight job and put in the work to live a, quote, normal life.
Even then, her parents didn't write her off. They bought her a car, a used Ford Pinto, so she could get to the clubs where she told them she worked to support her child.
In 1989, Shelley again needed a car, so her parents co-signed on a brand new Hyundai Excel. Shelley totaled that car soon afterward and decided she didn't want to pay on it anymore. So Bank of America came after her parents for the balance of the loan. Her parents had to explain the non-payment for the next 7 years on what was once an unblemished credit record.
It's only when the cameras aren't rolling that Shelley's willing to admit any of the help her parents gave her during those years.
At one point, Shelley got a traffic ticket, but since she had outstanding warrants, she forged her young sister's name on the ticket. So her father and sister had to go to court in LA to straighten it out. Shelley got caught for things she had done and threw her own sister under the bus. Did her parents forsake her then? No. They paid the cost of the ticket and paid for lawyers to plead Shelley's case and keep her from going to jail.
We've all heard stories like this. Parents who've lived at their wits' end, doing whatever they can to save and protect their children, spending thousands and thousands of dollars to bail them out of trouble. How does Shelley show her gratitude?
You know, my dad kicked me out and got tired of my rebellion, and I ended up in the arms of a pimp who hugged me and was kinder to me than my own father had been.
No one can say whether any amount of attention would have satisfied Shelley growing up, but the reality is, during the period that Shelley now claims she was abandoned by her family, she actually saw them every few months, and they have the photos to prove it.
Shelley even used one of those photos in her book, but she hid the fact that she was posed with her parents by cropping out her mom on one side and blurring out her dad's face on the other.
There's no longer any question Shelley Lubben has lied, distorted history, and deliberately omitted inconvenient facts. The question is, why would she choose to tell this particular alternate story in this manner at the time that she did? And I believe the answer can be found by exploring her years in exile on the road to her recovery.